double bill of what the hell is this. These are both 50's British films. You know, one's sci-fi horror and one's just straight out horror. So we have Devil Girl from Mars, and we have Horrors of the Black Museum. And again, both these have commentaries by Kim Newman, who seems to have done commentaries on almost every film I've covered this week. Or most of them at least. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's just the way. It's just the stuff I've been in the mood to watch. I don't think it's a case of the films I'm watching for next week's shows, so don't worry. So yeah, these are two cult classics from Studio Canal, and one's far superior to the other. So I'll get they can duff one out of the way first, which is Devil Girl from Mars. Believe it or not, it does not live up to the title, although according to the commentary it does. But I did not think this is much cop, to be honest. It is a zero budget film. It was made like basically they used the stage for a different film, and they still had a couple of weeks left on that contract. So it's like, well, we've already paid for it. Why not make another film? So there was another script called Devil Girl from Mars, and all they needed was a basic setup of a pub hotel thing. So they made that film, and they had a bit of flying saucer, and when you had, which is there, you had the giant robot there, you had the Devil Girl from Mars there, and you had the human beings in the middle. And this poster makes it look much more epic than it actually is. It was shot for almost nothing. You know, you can see the wires on the ship, but I've seen worse. At least it was. The robot looks tacky as hell. The robot does not look like this thing in the poster. This thing, robot in the poster, looks much better than the robot you get. The robot you get is basically what you get in the 60s Doctor Who, which is the effects level of all this film. But if you actually watch 60s Doctor Who, those are done so much better in this film. They've got a lot more narrative momentum and character stuff compared to this. This one is basically a melodrama with the four aliens into it. So there's meteor showers in this near the Scottish village. So in this one tavern, you've got the person who runs the village, her nephew and her husband, and it's the off season, so there's not many people there. She's got one customer who's there's a woman who's escaping from an affair. Into this hotel comes this escaped prisoner who's actually the lover of the barmaid who got a job nearby to the prison to be near her love. You know, it's as tacky as it sounds, because this was obviously a film written really fast. Like, apparently it's based on a play, but almost been a really bad play. But you can understand maybe something they had that was like, this is not good, but we can shoot it. You know, that's the best we can say about it. We can shoot it. So then you've got these two. There's a scientist and a reporter also arrive because they get lost. They're trying to find the place where the meteor come down. But they get lost, end up in a hotel, and it turns out that it's close to the place come down anyway, because a ship suddenly comes down and locks them off from the rest of the country. And this is a Devil Girl from Mars. So, because of budget reasons, has got lost, had something hit her ship, so she's aiming for London, but because they couldn't afford that, she found a small. She couldn't even find the Scottish village. She found a hotel in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, well, why would you have a hotel in the middle of nowhere? Doesn't really make sense. I mean, you have hotels for tourists in the middle near towns, but this is like miles away from everywhere because they can't afford anything else. And it's very English looking hotel. Like, no hotel who was in the middle of nowhere would look like this in Scotland. And none of them would sound as English as this in Scotland. So you have Adrian Corey as barmaid, and you have Hazel Court as the woman who's staying there, who's escaping from an affair. Those are the two big names from the film, and they're fine. I mean, they're obviously not giving it their all. They're doing a job. You know, they're fine for what they are. All the other actors are doing the same. It's just the one thing where a bunch of actors were hired for this film and they try and do a professional job of it. even though they probably know it's a ridiculous film. So that's the premise. You have, I'll have to look for her name. Patricia LaFan as the Devil Girl from Mars herself. She was in one of the big Roman Empire films, and so she got this part, and then she disappeared. Really, you also got John Laurie in this, who was in everything in British film. So he was obviously doing a job between other better projects, and it's a talk fest. They don't have money for anything. They have money for the ship landing. They have money for the robot to get the ship once and go back in and blow one or two things up, including a shed. And they have money for a boy to climb down a tree, and also to blow up the spaceship at the end. That's all the budget covers. So they're working this whole premise around the fact that they have no money for much of anything. And there's a lot of talk and a lot of it's gibberish. And even though the film's only 72 minutes long, maybe 75, it's a very short film. It still feels like it's double the length it should be. This should have been like a half an hour episode of something. You have too many characters, you have a situation that's explained early and then it gets repeated, it's always repeating the same thing. It's like, can we use guns against it? No. Can we use this? No. How do you get out of it? I don't know. And then try something else. Doesn't work. Try something else. Doesn't work. On and on and on. And eventually they visit the spaceship to see inside the spaceship, which is pretty much a bare room. It's like, it just goes on, and there's nothing really there. It's just way too long for what its premise is, and it's just like a... To some people, it's charming because it's a early British sci-fi movie. But there were some good sci-fi movies in the 50's, like The Quatermass Experiment, X the Unknown, Abominable Snowman, that were low budget but were made with some sort of care. Hammer got a lot of stuff from the BBC that were made with BBC and did bigger budget remakes of it. And they didn't have much space either, and they managed to do a lot with that. This film doesn't do much of anything. It's pretty much, this is the basics, this is all we've got, very limited budget, and it's just pretty tedious. And no one can really save it. It's just a dull film. And that's why it's, what the hell is this? It's a weird plot of a devil girl, a girl coming down from Mars to try and find men to save her society because they become such a matriarchy. The men were destroyed to keep them under control, so they're coming to have to steal men there, as if that's not going to happen again. And it's like, but they don't do anything with it. She's just had a dominatrix look to her. That's it. And it's like, no wonder the men want to kill you. So there's nothing really expanded upon. Like, everything's very basic. All the characters are basic. No one advances much. You've the journalist characters I get. He's meant to be an American, he's played by a Scottish guy. It's just low budget kind of mediocrity that disappeared for years and then eventually was refound. But it's one of those ones that's like, if it stayed gone, it would have been fine. There's just nothing here. So, what the hell is this one covers for? It's dull. It's weird looking, but it's just dull. So, avoid like the plague. But see this. Horrors of the Black Museum is just wonderful. I mean, there's not much of a plot to it, to be honest. It's just a bunch of set pieces and cruelty and misanthropy. And Michael Gough going way, way over the top, but in a really funny way, because he's just having a ball. He plays this crime writer who is covering all these crimes, and he's always mocking the police for being useless. And of course, it turns out he's the guy who's basically turned his assistant into a Jekyll and Hyde character to commit the crimes, so he can write about them and then mock the police for not understanding how to solve them. It's very basic setup for a film. But it's wonderful because, one, Michael Gough is having a ball playing a lunatic. Now, Michael Gough has two careers. He would do horror movies where he'd go way over the top. You know, like Peter Cushing would tend to be more subdued. This was him with Christopher Lee. Michael Gough was the actor who would go over the top. And then in his normal career, like for working for the BBC, working for films, being a supporting actor, he would be much more subdued, very normal, very subtle actor. You'll know him from the Tim Burton Batman films as Alfred when he was older. He was in a lot of stuff in British TV. He was in everything. And he was a theatre actor and basically a well-respected actor. But he's also a horror star. So he could go and make some films and get some money being a horror star and going way over the top. And this one's him at his most glorious. It's not subtle. And it's a part he played again and again, like in Conga, which is the giant ape movie where he is the same guy, where he's basically horrible person. So horrible. But in this bit, it's just so much fun. So in the first scene, you can see this in the cover with the eyes. Oops, the eyes here. Someone gets a set of binoculars. She looks through them. Things come out and goes through her eyes into her brain, kills her. And a lot of these murder weapons were found in the Black Museum. Black Museum in the past was where Scotland Yard kept up all of its famous bits of evidence. So you couldn't get rid of the evidence, so you put them in the Black Museum, which was the famous murder weapons and things. And they would do stuff in the 50s about the Black Museum, like in radio and this film saying. So this guy, played by Michael Gough, has recreated the Black Museum in his house. And he's got these different machines. He's got this big machine that looks like someone from the 60s Batman. Which is funny since he's going to play Alfred later. And a very different Batman. But yeah, I mean, there's some bits of sci-fi there. There's some bits of but it's mainly horror story. But this smug crime reporter who and basically it's episodic. It's like which murder does he arrange next. So he goes to Jeffrey Keane, who's a lead cop, to taunt him. Then he goes to a doctor sometimes because he's feeling ill after the murder. So the doctor's putting two together, like there's something up here, which hence that guy's going to die at some point. He's got a girlfriend who's basically a hussy, who's a good time girl. Obviously, she's going to die, and having her amazingly vulgar argument before she leaves him, and you're just waiting for her death, and it arrives in a fun, sick joke way. Let's leave it at that. There's an old woman who sells them stuff for his museum, and from this shop, who's put two and two together. He's behind it all, and she gets murdered in a fun way as well. I mean, there's a lot of the murders are just hilarious. You go from Gough discovering he's got a problem to solving the problem. There's the final thing with Shirley Ann Field, who's the girlfriend of the assistant who is trying to move away from Gough. Gough's kind of like, no. So he basically realises this woman's trouble, so he gives his assistant some more tonic thing that turns him into a monster and tells her to go kill his girlfriend, which causes his own downfall. And it's utterly vulgar in all sorts of ways, but in the 50s way where it's still kind of vaguely respectful, but it's also doing stuff you shouldn't do in a movie at this time. And it's just glorious. So even now you can look at it and go, oh, this is glorious. This is so twisted. Now it was part of what was nicknamed the Sadism trilogy, which was 3 films. This one, you had Circus of Horrors, which we talked about in the podcast I do with Salty Ronan, with also Chris Mohan and SGS at the time, trying to find underrated movies. I think that was the one we did that one for. Or Guilty Pleasures, I can't remember which one it was. But Chris talked about that one. And then there was Peeping Tom, which is a classic. So there's these 3 films that came out at the same time, and it was very, very immoral. Immoral films that did well in the box office, because everyone likes to see that. And it's just a British critics. We do not approve of this kind of thing. And it's like, and you know, a lot of the films they approved of, no one watches now. but people will still watch this one. It's one of those ones, it's probably on TV multiple times. You've probably seen bits of it, you know, without realising. It's just a fun movie. It's a what the hell is this movie, because it's so excessive for its time, and even now it's glorious excessive. Now the glory is watching the kind of 50s, like, good culture, try to do sleaze, and then also just having pure out misanthropy from Michael Gough's character throughout. He just has no time for humanity, has no time for people's morals or people's high ideals. He just has none of that. He just was like, I want the money, I want the fame, I want to look down on you, all of you, with contempt. And it's glorious. It's just glorious. It's just so much fun. I highly recommend this one. Just go watch it. It's just great. So that's me for now. You know, so I've warned you off one film, and I've said damn see the other one. So I hope that was a good video for you. So that's me. I'll see you all later. Bye.